very idea. A philosophy podcast. So, getting into his lecture, Realism with a Human Face, Putnam starts with a discussion on quantum mechanics. And he wants to do a discussion on how we should interpret those quantum mechanics. What is the best way to see it in terms of science in general? He starts by differentiating it with classical physics. You know, the physics of Newton that we all know and love and can actually understand. Classical physics offered us a complete view of the universe. Both the observer and the observed were accounted for in the calculations. There was nothing left out of the system. It's neat and tidy, no hanging chads. In contrast, any application of quantum mechanical theory requires, in addition to the system being talked about, whatever is being studied, there must be an apparatus or an observer, which is not included in the system doing the measurements. The observed is in the system, but the observer stands outside it. An offshoot of this principle is this means, and perhaps you've all heard this before, that the observer changes the reality of the situation or the outcome in quantum mechanics. A further consequence to this observer being outside the system is that phenomenon in the quantum mechanical framework is fundamentally unpredictable when an observer is present. On a quick aside here, I like the additional feature Putnam uses when he says apparatus, not just observer. So it doesn't actually have to be a person looking at it. I think that's an important point to keep in mind. It could be a tool taking a measurement is all that is required. I think it's an important consideration that measuring tools are as observational as, human eyes in science. They are mediators, and it's important to understand that science is not direct observation, but mediated by tools in an instrument-rich context. There's some Bruno Latour for you, and a little kick of the naive realists to boot. Anywho, since quantum mechanics requires that this apparatus or observer outside the system, then no quantum mechanical theory can be about the whole universe. There must be something standing outside the studyable phenomenon. There is a cut between the system and the observer. According to that, famous physicist Niels Bohr, every property of the system is considered to have meaning and existence only in relation to a particular measuring apparatus in a particular experimental situation. It is all relative, though. Let's not confuse this with the philosophical relativism lest we get into the whole Sokal hoax territory. Be careful. Now, so part of the appeal of Newton's physics, classical physics, is that you could have a theory of the whole universe. So, Newton's physics had a certain type of visualizability, according to Putnam, and this had tremendous appeal. It gave us what we wanted from a theology or a philosophy or a worldview, namely a God's eye view of the whole universe, a position where we could be able to see everything working within our gaze. Vision is included in grand deterministic. This type of vision is included in grand deterministic theories like that of the 18th century philosopher Laplace. According to this ambitious determinist, if someone knows the precise location and momentum of every atom in the universe, their past and future values for any given time are entailed. They can be calculated from the laws of classical mechanics. It is the idea of the universe as a giant mechanical machine, and if you're a materialist, that's convenient for you because, you could see yourself as just a subsystem in that giant machine, a cog, if you will, and you can see why it is such a noble dream. The dream is highly relatable, I think, to an academic. The ability to predict, the ability to be able to account for everything. If everything is included, there are no more paradoxes left to solve. And Putnam claims anyone who has ever done work, experimental or mathematical, with a real scientific theory must have felt this dream. I love Putnam's sympathy here for a theory, the God's eye view, that he doesn't agree with. It's very human, and though he thinks it is an error, It's a romantic and perhaps noble mistake. I like that sentiment. Yeah.